the panel of my dreams. I love this topic. I've been looking at engagement marketing for quite a while before it was cool, when it was all about acquisition. But as you know, global events have made it very important to engage your users. And we've seen since the pandemic, we've had an influx of organics. And I talked to a number of marketers because I'm a content marketing strategist, a journalist, an analyst, running podcasts and video shows, interviewing you quite often, and you're telling me, hey, we've got a lot of users, but we don't really want all of them because it's going to cost quite a lot to keep them. So it's about understanding your valuable users, who you can engage, where you want to allocate your budget if you're going to keep those users, and also how to get more of them, because of course in a world of IDI, what do they call it? Identity-constrained world that we are now in, as some people call it, you do have to engage because that will increase LTV and ultimately revenue. So there's a lot of good reasons to be here, and we've got a panel of experts. I'm really excited because they have some interesting perspectives from all stages of the app life cycle. So let me start by introducing them to kick it off. We have Aurélie Genet. I'll get it. Started her career in user acquisition roles, moved into retention-focused roles before diving into the world of product marketing, bringing it all together. And now she heads the cross-discipline engagement marketing tribe. Is that correct, a tribe? How cool is that? At Flow Health, which is an app building a better future for female health by helping women harness the power of their body signals. Before that, she was also in marketing and CRM in a number of companies. I've come across her as well in the industry, Skyscanner and Trainline. Aurélie, I'm going to be making the intros, but I like to sort of really make it engaging. That's the whole idea. So I have introduced you. Tell me something I won't find out about you on LinkedIn.
So usually my go-to fact for this sort of stuff is that I used to be a salsa instructor as my student job. That's quite cool, I think. That's the one cool thing I have.
Okay, that's cool. We'll leave it. It's cool. It covers all the bases. And then we've got, I said it right yesterday, Harjot. I did, okay, yes. Harjot Dhillon from Azimo, and Azimo is a fintech company. It's all about enabling faster, cheaper global money transfers, so it's in that exciting space that's becoming sort of fintech going into financial wellness, so a lot of engagement going on there. Before Azimo, he was at Intuit, so the whole sort of head of our CRM and marketing at two fintechs makes, I guess, double the expert. Tell me something I won't find out about you in LinkedIn.
I don't know, it's hard actually. I hate questions like this because you realise how interesting you're not. You'd find out a lot that I don't put on LinkedIn, but I suppose I came back from the Bahamas literally last night, so managed to finally get a holiday, and I'm sure many people here would appreciate being able to get out finally.
Oh yeah. Was that your picture, by the way, from Bahamas in your WhatsApp?
Yes, yeah.
That looks
already
awesome.
Updating the social media.
That took out time for that. That's great. It looked awesome. I was jealous. It was like, oh, no wonder he's a bit late to the session. Just getting back. Why come back? No, I'm just kidding. And then we have Jimmy Davis, and he's head of marketing at MindLabs. MindLabs is really cool type of app that is about wellness, but also improving sleep, rooted in neuroscience. He'll tell us more about that. But before he was at MindLabs, he was the head of retention at Fit, which is impressive because Fit is one of the #1 rated fitness apps in the App Store, perhaps still is. And also, I did a little bit of digging about something I did find. I don't know if I found it on LinkedIn, but I did find it. You were recognized as a 30 under 30, recognizing you for impressive rising star talent in marketing. Jimmy, what won't I find out about you in LinkedIn?
Well, thanks for pointing that out. That was many moons ago.
I did my work.
Yeah, again, I'm very uninteresting, so I don't really have too much to add. I got engaged a couple of weeks back, which was really lovely.
Yeah,
But that's right. Thank you
awesome.
Everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Good stuff. And finally, we have Andy Letting, and he is representing Kingfisher. Now that's exciting because we're going to have, as I said, a different perspective, because Andy told me before this, it's really about the beginning of the journey at this international home improvement company with almost 1,500 stores, operations in 8 countries, and really impressive. And you yourself, you don't only just specialize in digital customer acquisition and marketing, you also have experience in channel revenue growth, training, mentoring, I saw, speaking. So quite a track record there. Something I won't find in LinkedIn?
Okay, well, I was a semi-pro footballer, and I played in the FA Cup.
Hey, wow. Cool.
That was when I was a lot slimmer and fitter.
But you have the glasses still, the sports glasses. Okay, so now we know who we are, and it's time to tell a little bit more about what you look for in users, because, as I said at the top, it's a little bit like fishing where the fish are. You catch them and you say, yeah, keep it, no, throw it back, and, oh, I want more like them. So I'll start with you, Aurélie, because you don't just look for a user, they have to also look for you. You know, they have to trust you. It's not an app like any other app. What do you look for in an engaged user? What are the signs?
So just a little bit of context for anyone who doesn't know what Flow does. Flow started off as a period tracker and evolved over the past few years into an essential health partner. So we've developed a bunch of content, health assistant, and chats and different courses, etc., to really help our users understand what was going on with their body, and so they can live a better life, but also achieve their goals of whether it is conceiving or not conceiving, or just working through some symptoms and maybe detect even potential disease that they might have. So that's a lot of things that we're potentially able to help our users with, but the one thing that we have to do is get users to log their first period, because a lot of our content and a lot of our personalization is based on where you are in your cycle, so that's almost the first step into the engagement. And then what I've done with my team is almost build that funnel of engagement and understand, okay, what's the next best step for that? The next best step is we need our users to understand their symptoms better, so connect with their body, and then once they have that, then we can unlock the content and we can unlock further conversation. So it's taking them on the journey from each of this step.
Mm-hmm. And building that journey so that what they're going to do is log in that first cycle, that first information.
Exactly.
We'll go from health to wellness, in a sense, financial wellness, Jimmy. You know, you're in a fintech space. It's quite loud, but people depend on their fintech apps. What are you doing to just understand who the engaged user is? But on top of that, you know, what benchmark are you working toward?
I think that might have been a question for Harj.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I got the two Ds mixed up. I've got JD and HD. Well, there you go. We're going right in the right order as well. We'll start with you then, Harjot. What do you do?
So fintech's quite interesting. It's such a growing industry, but actually when you look at global payments, making a money transfer international is probably the one part where people still, you know, don't trust online. They want to go offline. They want to go to the high street and send their money. So firstly, it's really important to build that trust, to tell them their money is safe with us. It's such a, you know, most of our customer base are hardworking migrants. They work really hard for their money, and they're paying their families back home. So it's such an intimate thing for them to, you know, part ways with their money and give it to us to then make sure that their families get that. So, you know, the marketing team are very much focused on, you know, building the awareness, building the trust, and then where kind of my team come in and CRM is, you know, we get them to make their first transfer, they try us, they like us, but it's really important to get them to make subsequent transfers. And what we find is they're very much driven by rate and speed. Mm-hmm. So they'll have multiple apps simultaneously, and so we want to kind of build that trust and drive that loyalty. So for us, it's getting them to their fourth transfer. We kind of find when they get to their fourth, they're really comfortable with us, and they probably will stop looking elsewhere. So we do a lot of CRM automation to make sure we get them to their fourth. But also we have over 80 markets that we cater to. So it's really important to narrow in on the markets where, as you mentioned, you know, you're getting the better LTV, you're getting the more loyal users. Otherwise, you kind of just end up doing too much. And so we really narrow in on those key markets for where we see the loyalty from our users.
And you're using the benchmark of 4 transfers, 4 transactions as sort of like, if they hit that, then from there on, you know then that that is something that you can build on, that you can build your strategy. Now, Jimmy, with yours, which is MindLabs, which I do know it is, it's a bit different because it's, you have it in a way sort of built into the app, which is very fortunate for you because since you're looking at things like sleep, those are things we need every day. We don't need flow every day. We don't make a transfer every day, but we can see you as part of sort of our personal operating system. So what does an engaged user look like for you, and how do you make certain that I'm using you frequently?
Sure, yeah. So just a quick introduction into MindLabs. So we are a mental wellness app. We have been live now for 2 months, so we're very early in our journey. And the premise of our business is that we deliver mindfulness content via video, so both on demand and live. And it's backed by neuroscience, and we work with experts in different disciplines. And we believe that there was a V1 of these types of products for the last 6 or 7 years. We're trying to move it into the world of kind of V2 mental wellness apps. So for us right now in the journey that we're currently at is we're really trying to understand how, first and foremost, we can get users through to starting a free trial, and once they start a free trial, how we can get them to complete a class. So our main retention number at the moment, our engagement stat, is D7 retention. So how many people can we get completing classes within a 7-day window? We have a free trial, a 2-week free trial, and at the moment we're trying to find out what the magic number of classes is during a free trial to then see whether they would have a higher propensity to go on and become an active paying subscriber. And I guess the way that we're doing that at the moment, and our main tool for doing so, is personalization. So, we help people with all types of different mental health issues and struggles, or even, if you want to prevent something from happening in the future, whether it be sleep, stress, anxiety, mental fitness, mental well-being, or just trying to optimize your everyday. So it's really trying to position the right content in front of a user. So it's not just from an onboarding perspective, but also from a marketing perspective. How do we try and create a pretty succinct journey from top of funnel activity all the way through to the first piece of content they're going to find in the app? Hard to do. It's something we're really trying to focus on, but really that first interaction they have with the app in terms of the class that they get surfaced with, based on some of the information they've given us, needs to be really, really important.
And you don't know that answer yet.
We have a rough understanding. If we get people to complete 2 classes in their first 5 days of a free trial, the propensity for them to become a paying active subscriber is pretty high.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of journeys now, Andy, you're really at quite the beginning, because you're down there in the trenches with these companies that have sort of become what some people call mobile forced instead of mobile first, because it was, your D2C whether you like it or not. Clearly, you're at the beginning, but there's a lot that's relevant in understanding and architecting that journey. You don't maybe know right now what your segmentation is for engagement, but how are you approaching it as you build?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess we know that a lot of the customers on the app are existing customers, so they might be shopping in store, they might be online, on mobile, desktop, etc. So we know that much. What we don't know and what we've got to working out is, okay, from a segmentation perspective, is it the same behaviors they're performing on app versus other channels? So at the moment, as you say, we're literally sort of starting to put our analytics functions in place. So we're looking at top of funnel all the way through to the bottom of the funnel in terms of retention. I think the business really focuses and believes that it's retention, it's all about retention. I have a slightly different view, where we need to be thinking, actually, we could probably get new customers, brand new customers, into the business, maybe through the App Store or other channels. So we're kind of looking at it from a number of angles, using the marketing funnel as a classic, but really getting our data and getting our insight and our ability to make decisions in order, the foundational stuff first, but then we'll start to really understand our segments and behaviours at a category level rather than just a name and location level.
But that's really a smart strategy as well, because it's in designing acquisition for retention that you're ultimately going to achieve it. So you're thinking about it. I've heard quite often you start thinking around retention on day one. Day one acquisition is when you start building for retention. We have questions coming in here. I love questions. I don't know. We'll take a few here. I was just going to get to how you build community, but let's start with you, Jimmy, on your day 7 retention numbers. Would you care to share that, or is that not
potentially confidential?
Okay, we won't go there then.
We won't go there. Sorry.
No, that's no problem.
Sorry,
but I will stay with you because Now that we've discussed what does an engaged user look like, and of course every marketer has to figure that out for themselves. What is it that you want to encourage? What is the conversion you're looking for? You say, for example, you want to get to a certain number of sessions, you want to get to a certain number of transactions. I'll start with you, Jimmy, because you want to nurture a community, which is quite different. Tell me a little bit about that. How do you approach that? And how does that feed into your strategy for engagement marketing?
Yeah, it's really interesting and also quite challenging. Community means many things, and I think for a product like ours, that we aren't in the business of trying to build the new Facebook for mental health products, but what we would love to do is try and engage with the community the best we possibly can. So there's stuff that we're doing in the products that encourages that. So we have live classes where people can kind of replicate that live environment of being in a studio somewhere and taking a class together. There's also what we're trying to do away from the product itself and how we try and build the most engaged community we possibly can. So I would actually be happy if we lived in a world where people didn't download the app. That sounds mad. But I would be happy if they came to our blog and read about our content. I'd be happy if they engaged with us on social media because they trusted our voice within this space. And I guess our biggest challenge really with understanding how to build those relationships is every person who will hopefully eventually start using the app is potentially going to have a different user case. So lifecycle management becomes slightly tricky because you could have someone that is using our product. Hopefully everybody would like to use our product every single day. That's the intent, and the science behind it is that the more regularly you use it, the better you can get at rewiring your brain. However, someone's activity might be different. They could be using it once every fortnight, and that is an active user on that part. So with automation and the way that we engage with our communities, we've got to work out how we do that based on their actual activity.
Mm-hmm. So based on their behavior in the app, but probably also across other channels. Aurélie, you have a similar approach. It's got to be very, very personal, but also empathetic. You're not necessarily building a community, but you are building trust in that community. Tell me about how you approach that.
So coming back to what you said earlier, where you don't need flow every day, I would challenge you saying that actually flow can help you every day.
Well,
and
the
whole challenge for us is to help our users just connect with their body. Your body tells you a lot of things. It's all about listening to it and almost sinking in, logging it with flow and understanding what that means. And so you can build every day that little bit of extra confidence to go for your day or go for your goal. So the way we approach that is really trying to understand. So there was a question about onboarding coming up. The onboarding for us is key because that's when it's the first introduction where you meet someone and you're asking them what it is that you need help with, what's your goal. And if you think back to our audience could be from teenagers to women in their 30s, 40s, maybe looking at conceiving, not conceiving, having challenges with their cycle. And it's about understanding who they are and what their story is, so we can then tailor the type of communication that we can have with them and what it is that we can help them. Because you don't know what you don't know, so our goal is to kind of nudge you along and give you a feel for what there is to learn and unlock in yourself.
We'll get to channels and content in a moment, but you bring it up yourself, nudge them along. What's working there?
So we're testing different things. I'm not going to say that we've nailed it, and there's still a lot of work, but there are different types of programs. So if we look at what Flow does, we have a lot of reminders. For example, pushes are great for this little nudge of, hey, how are you feeling today? Just make sure to log it. Or today you might be feeling X, Y, and Z. Tell us if that's true. And we also have stuff like emails that work really well, because I love emails because it helps us build the brand outside of the actual app. And so that helps us give more rich content and give users a feel for what it would be like if they come back into the app and engage a little bit deeper.
So other channels and also personalized journeys, push notifications, contextually relevant, appropriate.
Yes.
Same
and linking back to a good, to say, and linking back to because we have an engineering team actually working with us in building the in-product experience. So yeah, linking what the marketing channels are bringing in with an optimized app experience.
Harjot, what about you? Same question. What are you doing to create that not just sense of personalization and community, but that I can rely on you. And I do this from multiple regions. You have vast regional focus, and you need to be sensitive to, for example, the needs of Philippine workers sending money back home as opposed to other nations and other nationalities. How do you approach that? How do you segment that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we have to hone in. Number one, you need to know your customer, but you need to know your market as well. But you also need to know what's going on in events. So, I mean, at the moment, sending money is more crucial than ever. And so we need to, number one, data. You need to look into the data and see what the customer's doing, where they're sending, and the reason for sending. And then we adapt that for our comms. So we make sure we understand why the customer's sending, and we're quite sensitive to that, whether it be for charity or for their family. But then we also need to understand the market. And I think what's really important, you've got to look at your own data, but you've got to go and do the user research. You've got to go out and understand, what's their likes, dislikes. A Filipino customer is very different from a Nigerian customer in terms of tone of voice, what they like and the reason they send. And so we very much sync with the product team, to make sure we're researching and we're getting customers in and we're understanding their likes and dislikes, and we then reflect that in our CRM. And so one of the biggest things was our welcome journey. So we've spent nearly a year, 2 years just focused on onboarding and really tailoring it. So making sure that when a Filipino customer comes in, we're the money transfer company for them. We reflect their needs, their wants, even through creative as well. So I'd say that's the most kind of important thing to build trust and get them to re-engage.
So how many journeys are you trying to manage? Because you could have as many journeys as you have customers if we really want to get deep into hyper-personalization or even real-time personalization. But for someone beginning literally their journey as a marketer, what would you recommend?
Don't try and do it all at the start. So I mentioned it's taken us a year, 2 years to get to where we are. We did a one-size-fits-all program, measured the success, and then we did the small iterative changes. We're at the stage now where we finally, we've invested in a CRM platform and we've got that data in. And so, from a company level, retention's really important. So we got that data into the platform, and now it's kind of our job in marketing to really segment. But if you try and do that all up front, you're going to just not really know what's working, what's not. So I think it's really important if you're starting your journey, just do one program and focus on that. Make that your business win. So we did put other programs in place, but it was all about the welcome journey. We proved the success, and now we're moving into in life and churned a year later. And I think that is going to really be where you see that success. Don't try and do the whole user life cycle within months, because it'll just be so hard. Your data team won't be able to cope with the kind of analysis. Your product team won't be able to cope with kind of helping you implement those things. So yeah, just narrow in on where you think your success is.
For you, Andy, it's not just a matter of narrowing in on the customer, but you're looking at so many different ways of interacting with them and trying to be consistent across those. I mean, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you're approaching this, because you have, the app that you're working on, you have the physical stores, and you have the advantage, many people would think, of having the physical, people at the checkout. They're part of download the app. So they're sort of like your app install advocacy program in a way. But how are you bringing them all together, and what are the challenges there?
Yeah, it's another good question. I think we're first of all educating the business. So we're taking resources and knowledge, whether it's from competitors or knowledge of our own customers in terms of the app. And then we're just really working out in terms of, how do we use that and educate our business? Because the app, I suppose I would describe it, it's a bit like being on an island, and we're kind of in touching distance of the mainland, but we're just not there yet. So really it's starting small steps. Our staff, we have over 18,000 staff on one of our banners, B&Q, making them advocates, making sure that they have the app, they can talk about the app, and they can share their experience of the app within their network. We're then also looking in terms of our media. So again, how can we use the app in terms of from a media perspective and integrate that? Making TV, radio, with Easter being our key campaign coming up in a few weeks, making sure that we're referencing the app. So it's starting to seed that visibility of the app, and that people can then start to associate that we've got an app. Not that it's a great app, but we've got an app so they can then, when they can understand that they can speak to us, purchase via another channel as well. And that's a very, very slow process, but it's really about negotiating with those media owners or the people who are managing the CRM comms to make sure that, that they are thinking about, we do have an app that we should be proud of and shouting about at the same time like we do with all our other great services.
That brings up a great point, because that brings together so many people. Then you ask yourself, who owns retention, engagement and retention marketing in the organization, or who should own it in the organization? I'd like to start with you, Aurélie, because you are really, you're building your squad in a way. I could just see you out there with the team, but you do bring them all together, and that's more or less the blueprint for all marketers, like it or not. Tell me about that personal journey, bringing together product, marketing, and whoever else is on your squad, actually.
Yeah, it's hard work. But I think, for me, the key to retention is product market fit. And so for that to happen, you need to have insights from marketing. You need to sense check that with user research. You need product to come up with the innovative thinking. You need design to put that experience together. You need engineers to make sure we can actually build that great product market fit. So that's really something we are trying to push for at Flow. I saw that working really well at Skyscanner as well, bringing all of these disciplines around the table and making that retention or that engagement metric key for all of these disciplines, and that's how you move business metrics.
Are there any shortcuts there for those who don't have, the 10-person team that you're talking about?
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think you would always have a team that does product and a team that does marketing. You can start there in just, for example, having lifecycle managers actually spending some time with the product team, understanding what their problem are, what is it that they're trying to fix, and then what is the actual value, how do they want users to feel when they engage with the product, and then bring all of these insights into the different communication programs that we can launch and test, and then feed that back. And it's just about talking to each other. But I've been in many companies where everything were very siloed, and so it was really hard because marketing would just drive traffic, but then product was just looking at their own part, and so it wasn't that coherent user experience. So I think if you can focus on building that coherent experience, that's when you can see some results.
Any tips, Harjot, perhaps Jimmy, on building that mentality, that mindset that we all own the customer, we all are responsible for customer engagement, for engagement marketing?
Yeah, I think I struggled with that in my last company. It's very siloed. And a lot of people straight away think it's a marketing initiative, and it's far from it. I think we obviously do the product's great, then it's up for marketing to kind of tell the customer. For me, it's a company-wide thing, so you do need, senior buy-in straight away. They need to understand why retention's important, but it's the customer experience. It's not just retention. So, we're lucky we have a really good product where our NPS score is really high. But so you obviously need to partner with product, you need to partner with data. But a lot of people forget to partner with customer service. They are talking to the customers day in, day out. And for me, as soon as I hear CRM, my first go-to is customer service team, because they're the ones that are going to be telling you the people who are having the bad experiences. They're the ones that you want to see what the problems are and how we can address it. And so I think that's really key, that collaboration with customer service, and then taking that and going to data and product. And then second to that, I just think aligning the KPIs. I think I've worked in some organizations where we want to collaborate, but each KPI is different in each team. I think we've got to the stage now where every team has the same KPI, and we're fully aware of it. And I think it just makes it a lot easier if you're all battling for the same KPI and working towards that. Sorry, not battling, but working towards that KPI. So I'd say, just align. And if your company aren't, there yet, be that person, person at the table that's saying, what about keeping the customers, and go to the people that are needed and get their buy-in.
I want to understand how you do that as well, Jimmy. And I see we have a question about, prioritizing CRM. Sometimes it feels like an afterthought. Why is that? Why don't you answer as part of your question and how you break down the silos and build your teams, how you make certain that you prioritize it as well, and when that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I guess we've got pretty clearly defined business objectives, and it's important for us to think of growth as retention as important for retention as it is for acquisition. So I've worked in two ways before. I've also worked in squads, so having a clearly defined metric that a certain squad is aiming to deliver, and I think both work quite well. We're quite small enough at the moment that OKRs are fine for us to use, but keeping those OKRs really succinct and just having a handful rather than having tons. I've worked before where you can get carried away, and if you're individually coming up with your own OKRs, you're just putting stuff down for the sake of it. But having really clearly defined objectives for the business and then everyone feeding into those handful of objectives is really important. And of course, at this stage of our company right now, which is kind of early stage startup, retention is as important as acquisition.
Mm-hmm. I want to get to how we engage and retain. And the question about tools is coming. That's actually the wrap-up question, so you have to stay where you are for that one. We will get there. But I want to look at the how. We've talked about content. We've talked about community. We've talked about personalization. Share what you do. And I'll start with you because you're very big on it. You have video built right in, baked in. It's like, this is the community. This is how we're going to, I wouldn't say hook you, but I would say engage you strongly. Yeah. Tell me a bit about how that works. Maybe also a learning or two, because I'm sure it didn't come, well, maybe it did come in a moment, you know, one of those brilliant ideas, but maybe there's a journey to get there as well.
Sure, yeah. So I guess the products that we're trying to build at the moment and in my previous life at Fit, it's all about the experience. And both companies actually delivered that experience through video content. We've done lots of research at MindLabs to prove both kind of quant and qual that have said to us that having that one-on-one relationship with someone, even through a digital screen, especially for something like mental health, is super important, and it can build for a better experience, therefore helping you with retention. So that was kind of the basis of the decision, is to do video content. We also believe that there's lots of visual cues. So if you are doing a certain practice, whether it be a new way of practicing breath work or meditation, it is helpful to see an expert in front of you giving you that visual cue. We're trying to build healthy habits, and there's different ways that we're trying to do that. But everything that we build into our app right now is backed by neuroscience. And to build those healthy habits, you're going to have to do something succinctly and do it in order. So at the moment, we've actually just released a new feature in the app, which is called Series, similar to what you would find in a fitness app, which is based on training plans. So you kind of a bit more goal-orientated, or you're learning how to do something in a certain period of time. And that is helping us. So if there is some learnings, it's giving that guided content to people. You know, our product, it comes from a place of trying to help people optimize and rewire their brains, rather than it being more traditional that you'd find in this space, which is a bit more reactional. So I'm struggling to sleep, how do I fix it quick? We want people to do this every day. And building stuff like Series or structured guided content allows us to then, build for a better retention program as well.
Okay. Harjot, I wanted to ask you a similar question. It's personal finance. It's a personal journey. It needs personalization. How do you approach that? Or how should a marketer be approaching that as part of the strategy?
It's data, like it's knowing your customer.
So what data are you looking at? Because we have some questions here, what metrics matter the most to you? Because you're looking at the data, but you're also looking at metrics and benchmarks. Yes. Explore that.
Yeah, it depends on your business and where your focus is. There's such a wide spectrum. So it could be, just onboarding them and getting them to, the second time they do it. It could be proactively trying to save them. So thinking about modeling out what are those behaviors before they leave you. And I think that's really important, because it's easier to proactively save someone than it is to reactively kind of save them after that we've lost them. So I think that's really important. And we aren't the type of app where we can get you to send money. You have to have a need, and you have to have someone to send money to. And so our biggest thing is just being part of the conversation. So content is really king, and they should be your best friends. Like, you should be syncing with them. And so our biggest goal at the moment is to really be the thought leader in this space. We get a lot of people coming here as students who could do with guides and help, people moving around different countries. And so where we want to kind of place ourselves is, okay, we can help you. And then when you do need to send money, they'll straight away think of us over other competitors or other solutions.
Mm-hmm. And you have almost embarrassment of riches. You have all the channels. Everything. You have physical, you have email, paid media. We have some questions coming in around, what approach do you use with that? Tell me a little bit about that channel mix, what you see is working, And what is maybe failing as well?
I think what's working at the moment, being early days, is we're doing a lot around ASO, so App Store Optimization, where originally probably 99% of customers were searching for our brand, and that's where we're getting our downloads. Now that's been reduced significantly, so we're getting competitor terms and generic terms as well. So again, we want to improve our visibility, and that's kind of been our key focus. I think we've started, and we're bringing on board Apps Flyer, so that will help with our measurement. So there's a bit of nervousness to be spending loads of money at the moment when we don't know where we want to then optimize for. So that's coming, and that will be coming very soon. And really, we're just focusing on the channels that we own, ultimately. So whether it's the email or the website or the stores, etc. So we're just focusing really, I suppose, removing customers or making customers aware that we have an app, and then giving them the choice to move over. Another thing we've done quite successfully is that customers who have the on mobile web, we also, again, alert them that we have the app, and that's been quite successful as well, because it might be faster, the app, it's just a bit more intuitive. So it's just slowly, but working with what we've got, doing that really well, and then working on more paid initiatives when we've got the ability to track and make decisions on that.
So I wanted to wrap up with the question that came up as well, but let's look at the thread here. We're talking about what makes this all possible. It's content, it's community, it's empathy, it's data, it's personalization. So all of this comes together in this concept of what I'd like to think of as the personalization stack, because that's at the heart of retention. So let's talk about that stack. I'd like each of you to sort of tell me tools or tips or tech, because again, it's building it, but you don't want to build everything. So tell me, what do I really need, I think is the question here. And I'll start with you, Aurélie.
Thank you.
Well, you've built Squad, so you're the expert.
I think, just thinking that because we're sitting on that panel, we have all the answers, I think that's just, that's not the case. I think the way we're approaching personalization is really taking it step by step. Like, what's the first level of personalization you can do? For us, it's as soon as we know your periods, then we can know which day of your cycle you're in. So that's one layer. Then the next layer is understanding what's your goal. Are you trying to conceive, not trying to conceive? Are you going through pregnancy? Then we can layer on anything like, what are the symptoms that you're logging in? And so almost like breaking down what are the different almost tier of personalization that you can influence and deliver. When it comes to the stack, I think right now we build everything. So all of the things that we have ingrown tools. So that has wins and challenges. But I think the key is to bring everyone, again, product, engineers, and marketing on the same journey of identifying what are these steps and how do we build the solution for each of the steps until we hit the amazing
architecting those multiple journeys. It makes a lot of sense. Impressive that you have your own tech. Maybe someone will ask you if you'll license it. Who knows? Harjot, what about you? Your tech stack. Show me your personalization stack.
Yeah, so I think your marketing platform, your CRM platform is key. So, and I think it's really important to choose the right one for your business. Don't choose the right one based on kind of, okay, this one's a good one in my last company, because I think when I joined the company, they kind of had a really good solution, but it wasn't the right one for a startup. And so I think having the right CRM marketing platform, but when you're going to choose it, we engaged our engineers. They're the guys that are going to be the ones that really migrate you to that, or they're going to be the ones that build the back end for you. So we made sure they were part of the decision, not just kind of, right, we've gone to this platform, now can we implement it? And then second to that is data. I feel like a bit of a broken record, but I always use the analogy at work where, we kind of bought the Porsche, but we didn't fill it up with petrol. We didn't have anything to kind of take it out of the drive. And so we kind of rushed the migration. We did the bare necessities for the data. And so now we've just done a phase 2, and we can really now personalize. and do it automated. We're a team of 2, and so I think, you know, trying to do it manually, you're never going to be able to kind of have the wins if you don't do it automated.
Okay, we have a CRM system. We don't have the name, but that's all right. Jimmy, something maybe a little bit more. No, not well. You could. People take notes, but a little bit more depth here. We know CRM is part of the solution for personalization, but you know, other stuff you need to have. You're building for retention. You're designing for retention. What do you need? What does it look like? Or what don't you need? Maybe there's like a couple of things you can throw out, because I've seen those massive, you know, the growth stacks. They're impressive, but not everyone can do them in multiple levels.
I think it's so dependent on the business and the objectives that you have as part of the business. Right now, we're quite small, but we have got lofty ambitions. So the tech stack that we're implementing right now is we want to be an engagement-first business. So how do we talk to people on a level once they've onboarded and given us the right type of information? So going back to your point on like collecting the critical data. So we want to be able to talk to them in the right way. And to do that, we're using Braze as our engagement platform. We're also using Apps Flyer to be able to track them. I mean, we live in a difficult world right now for tracking, but we're trying to do the best we possibly can with understanding how they found out about us, how then we can connect an attribution ID with the user ID, and then surface them personalized content. And whether that's in the app or whether that's through kind of communications, we want to provide that personalization.
Okay. Andy, you're at the beginning. Maybe you don't have your retention personalization stack, but maybe you know what you're looking for, and that's also important to understand that checklist.
As a business, we're focusing on our attention and our data and bringing it all into one place. So, you know, like Jimmy, we've got Braze, we've got Apps Flyer, really. So I think it's just about the plumbing and getting all the data in one place at the moment. But then we've got the tools ready to go, if you like. So we've got the Porsche in the drive. We just need to fill up with petrol and then go. But what I would say as well, I think it's also quite important, we're using data AI. So we can have a lens on the competition. Otherwise, I say we don't stop marking our own homework, because obviously we're doing brilliantly if we do that. But start to see, so we can then look at our active users against, you know, other active users for other key competitors. So just to keep us honest.
Okay. So blending that data, you've got your CRM, got your measurement tools, and I think we've given great advice for our audience. I would hope. Fantastic panel. Join me in thanking them for sharing.